is just your total fixed cost plus your total variable cost. And we went over all of the definitions of these average costs and the fixed cost and the variable cost. We went over all this stuff, and then we went over the different ways that you can measure cost. And the important ones I said were the marginal cost and the average cost. I said were the ones that are probably going to be the ones you use most of the rest of the semester. But for now, of course, we have to know all these definitions for now. But these are the two main ones. But it's all based on how much a company produces. That's the big thing, okay? When you're trying to figure out costs, you have to figure out how much you're going to produce. So we look here and we say, all right, this is called a production function. Okay, so this here is called a production function. And a production function is just looks at here the output, and so a company is trying to produce some good, whether it's Coca-Colas or computers or whatever it is that they're producing. That's the Q, and that's the number of those Qs. Okay, so that's what the Q is. It's just a number of those units that are produced. So if you're producing, 10 million Coca-Cola bottles, then that's 10 million is your Q. If you're producing, 15,000 computers, then 15,000 is your Q. So that's that tells you how much they're producing, which is really important because it comes in here and here. So it comes in for average cost and it comes in for marginal cost. So you see that same Q is the Q that comes up in this area. And then the two goods, or the two inputs, are capital and labor. And remember when we did at the beginning of the first day class, we talked about what are the things that companies need? What are basically the scarce resources? And one was capital, and one was labor, and one was land, and one was entrepreneurial spirit. So we're looking at these two right now. So to take this a step further, all right, we'd say that the output of the company is like I said, we were saying this is the Q, right? And if you took Q divided by L, right, we get what's called the average productivity. Of labor. And if we took the change in Q over the change in L, we will get something called the marginal productivity of labor. And the last definition is that we're going to do before we kind of get started with our exercise here is the total cost could be written another way, and we could look at the cost of capital plus the cost of labor. Right, so if we're producing a good and we're trying to figure out how much this good costs to produce, then we can just look at how much it costs for the inputs of the good. So we can take the total cost of the capital plus the total cost of the labor, add them together, and that gives us our total cost. So the cost of capital, would be, let me just start with labor. How much would the cost, how would you calculate the cost of labor? Well, let's just say I have 15 employees, and I pay them each $10 per work. Right? Let's just say per hour. Okay, so I have 15 employees, I pay them $10 per hour. So how much is my cost going to be?
$150 an hour.
$150, right? I have 15 employees, I'm paying them $10 an hour, so my cost will be $150. How do you get that? Well, you take the wage rate times the number of people working. So W is your wage rate. And L, so that's W, and L is the number of workers, or or you can put that in hours if you want, so worker hours. And so that gives me this here, so that side of the equation. And the way capital is done is we have a rental cost of capital. Just like a lease, maybe something like a lease would be. And then the number of capital units. So the best way to kind of to do this and to show you this is to like maybe kind of show you how it would work with an example. Okay, so let's do an example here. All right, so we're going to take this. We're going to do an example where we take these numbers, these different categories. We'll take the cube. We're going to take the number of capital units, number of labor units, the total cost, the average cost, and we'll do the marginal product of labor and the average product of labor. And we can do, that's probably enough for now. Okay, but we can put more on, but that's good enough for now. Okay, so let's do a little experiment and all right. So who wants to come help me? Who wants to step up? Be a champ. Help me out.
What are we doing exactly?
Oh, it's tough. It's tough. So I'm kidding. Okay, it's not bad. Okay, so Tate's gonna go. All right. So Tate, Mom. So here's what Tate's gonna do. Okay, and Justin, you're our official timekeeper here. Catch. Okay, 30 seconds. All right, got it. So Tate is gonna make widgets. Okay, here's how you make a widget. You take a big piece of paper like this, fold it in four. That, oops. That, staple it. And that's a widget, okay? So we're going to hire him, I'm hiring him to do this job. Here's this, so he's my labor, okay? I'm gonna pay him $5 for doing this, but $5 for 30 seconds, okay, that would be $600 an hour. So I'm just making a lot of work. Okay, so $600 an hour basically is what we'd be getting. Okay, and so what he needs, so he's the labor. So his wage rate here is going to be equal to 5. What does he need to make those widgets? What sort of capital does he need? Staples. What else? Paper. What else? Stapler. What else?
Hands.
What did you say? Hands. They come with the labor most of the time. Right? So, all right, what else?
Staples.
Yep, so we have staples, paper, and probably like some sort of work unit, right? Like the desk. So I'm going to rent all that to him, which would be called a rental cost of capital. So I'm going to rent all that to him for $10. That would be my R. Okay, so this is how it works, okay? Right now, before I hire him, I have got this, I have no labor. So what would my cost be? Remember, we're going to use this formula now for your cost. So your total costs are going to be your wages times the number of workers. At this beginning it's 0 because I'm not hiring them yet. And then the rental cost of capital, and how much is that in my example here? 10. I only have one workstation. Okay, so my total cost at this point will be 10. Can't do average, can't do any of these. All right, so that would also be, if I was to put fixed costs on my chart, that would be my fixed cost as well. Because I'm going to rent that to him before he even starts, we have this cost.
Where did you get your one from?
What I get one?
One.
One? Because I just have one workstation. I'm just getting like one workstation that I'm renting him all this stuff for. So he's going to be working really hard on practice. Sure, you got this? Okay, so 30 seconds. All right, ready? And tell him when, Justin.
No. Like the idea.
That's it. Well, not perfect, it's okay. Okay? Fast is probably better than perfect. Okay. Quantity, not quality. Pretty good. Stop. Wow. That was 30 seconds. It's a record. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. Wow. Okay, so don't be the 6 feet step aside so you can see me. Right? That's perfect. Okay. All right, so we did 5 of them. Okay? 5 of them. So here's how it would work. The Q would now be 5. He used 1 workstation, right? He had 1 unit of labor. What's my total cost now? This is the important part. What would be my total cost of that 1 unit of labor and 1 unit of capital? How much would the total cost be? Everybody should be able to get this, okay? So we paid for 1 unit of labor. How much is a unit of labor cost? 5. Right. It's a unit of labor is a wage rate. That's what you're doing. That's when you get paid per hour. You're paid a wage rate. So that 1 unit of labor costs $5. We only hired 1 person, so our total cost would be $5. So to produce these 5 widgets, okay, that's what they're called, we had to pay for the workstation, 1 unit of the workstation, and 1 unit of labor. So how much was the workstation? How much was our rental cost for this whole workstation? 10. And how much was he? 5. So how much is our total cost? 15. Awesome. All right. Now that we know our total cost, what would be our average cost? Guys, if you don't know this, then you have to pay attention and ask this. You absolutely will not get this on a test. And I'd rather have you ask questions right now than sit there on a test and go, I have no idea what he's talking about. Okay, so what is it? 3, right. Okay, it's just the total cost. You just go back over here, and your total cost is 15. Your quantity is 5, so that has to be 3. So now that's saying, on average, this guy can produce these widgets for $3. So now, what that tells us is what if the price of widgets were $2? Could he stay in business? How much did it cost him to make it?
3.
3. So could you stay in business selling something for $2 if it cost you 3? No. So when he has to charge a price of at least $3 if he's only going to make 5 of these. He has to, or he's going to be out of business. You guys get that? Yes?
Q stands for the quantity that he produced.
I just counted these. Okay, so I made 1 of them. So 2, 3, 4, 5. I was like, 5 is really good. Okay? I'm very impressed with it. Okay. So now the marginal product of labor just looks at how much did we produce before we hired them versus after we hired them. So what was the difference when we hired Tate to do this? How much did he add to our output? 5. So it's just the change in Q, which is 5, over the change in labor, which is 1 person, it's 5, and then just Q divided by the labor, Q over the L, is also 5. Because always at the beginning, your average and your product are going to be equal. Okay?
Wait, what did you do with the last one?
The last one is just, this one here is just Q divided by L.
And what was the
I know, it shouldn't be that painful. But it is. I'm going to give you some formulas, but yes.
What is the formula for the
Change in Q over change in L. It's the, oh, you're going to make me do this. Okay, here we go. Change in Q over the change in L.
Appreciate it.
All right. No problem. Who wants to help? Who wants to help? Okay, cool. Come on up. Troy. Yes. So Tori's coming up to help us out. Up, round two. Okay, now two of them. Okay, so these widgets are done, sold in the marketplace for $10 because they were such a good problem. Okay, so these two of you up and help him. No, no. Now they have to be a team working together. Right, ready? You want to do practice? Space. So now we have two people working as a team. All right. 30 seconds. Tell them where to go. And you can play. I would start by doing one because while you're waiting here, all right. Big one here yourself. All right. Ready, set. Oh. Just you won't come. This would be an area of comparative advantage we call specialization. So it is the expert at stapling. Tape is the expert folder. Stop. Ooh, that's close. 8. Okay. All right, you guys have to knock for a second. All right, so now I just counted 8, so that's my quantity is 8. Did we? This is the first thing they said that Tori said when she got up here is do I get a stapler? The answer was no. Okay, because we're just using that one working station and they're sharing it, so I still have the same capital that I have with the first person. That would be 1. Okay, hired a second person, so number of labor units that will be 2. Total cost of these guys. For everything up here, what was the total cost? Well, how much?
20.
20. So 10 for the workstation, 5 and 5. That's how we got the 20. Or we can come over here and say we still have this. Now we have 5 and 2 units of labor. So 10 plus 10 is our total cost. So our total cost is equal to 20. Okay. Average cost would be 20 divided by 8. 2.5. So that's good. That brought your average cost down. What about the marginal product of our second worker? 3. So who would you pay more? But see what happened. The second worker, right, would be now was only had 3, but they were a team, so we can't really look like that. We're going to pay them. We'll pay them based on average product, which would be what? 4. Okay, so seems pretty good. And I'll work on the pay part later. But does everybody see where those numbers come from? Yes.
You give us R.
I did give you R. Yeah. I did, but you. All right. Who wants to? Yes, Mandy, you act like you want to come up and help. I think that's what that rate is. All right, go ahead, sorry.
How much is average cost?
Average is just your total cost divided by Q. Total, so it's just this divided by that. All right. Yes. Oh, come on up. Come on up. Enjoy the crowd. All right. Yes.
With us R or we have to find it?
It depends on different ones on different. I give you the information to get R if I don't give you R. Okay. So sometime I'll show you how to do that. Okay. So we're Tiana's coming up, right? And so ready for round 3? All right. 3 of them working together now. Here's a little bit more paper. Okay. It's going to be maybe 2 here. Doing your team and your practice. Here we go. All right, round 3. Ready? Okay, wait. So you guys, they have 30 seconds. There's 3 of them working together now. So our L will go to 3. Our capital is still 1. it has to be. And one. This is a little Yeah. You just make it bigger. That's all here. Boy, there's piling up here. He needs another stapler. Okay, stop. All right, good. Wow, that was a production process. Wow. All right, good. So, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's awesome. Okay. I can't see you behind you, so anyway, it's a good job. 13. 13. I just counted widgets. That's where our cue came from. 1, 3. How much now? 25. Because all we're doing, if you notice, all we're doing is we're adding labor. Every time we add 1 unit of labor, we're adding $5 because that's what we're paying them. So it's $5 for this person, $5 for this person, $5 for this person. How about the average cost? How much is it? 25, yeah, 25 divided by 13 would be how much?
1.92.
1.92. So now that means we can compete with those bigger widget companies now because we can charge this much price. And not only can we charge that price, if we charge $1.92, that means we're paying these guys $600 an hour, right? Or $5 for every 30 seconds. So we can pay them really well and charge that price. So they're making profit. Even though I'd say the price, if the price is equal to the average cost, we're still paying these guys a lot of money, right? So that works out good. The marginal product of that third person was how much? 5. Everybody see that? Does everybody see the marginal product of the third person? Yes. Well, if we pay, but you guys are a team. We're going to pay you based on average. I see how this is going. All right, good. Tori wants to start a union up here. That's not fair. We work together. I don't think it's fair. Okay. That's where it starts. Okay, and then 13 divided by 3 is, what is it, 4.23 or something? Okay, good. All right, now, what do you think will happen if we add a fourth person? I mean, what more could have been done?
You wouldn't have I need another statement.
We would have been in rough shape. So you can see that if we added a fourth person, which we could do, but I don't know if we need to, then what would happen is we would probably not go up too much in production, but the cost would start to rise. All right? In other words, our capital would be getting stretched, and we would need more. We need to upgrade our capital in order for us to become better at this. Okay? Does everybody see that? Okay, now, if we are paying based on marginal productivity, based on who adds the most, then in this case, the first person added 5, the second person added 3, the third person added 5. So it would be hard for us to do that because we'd be paying the stapler the lowest amount, right? The second person. And so maybe she'd say, why don't I just become a folder? If I become a folder, can't I make more money? Do you ever have that happen in business? You're working at McDonald's and you are the French fry specialist, and you say, why can't I be one of the chefs making hamburgers where I can make more money? Well, no, they don't pay based on marginal productivity whenever there's teamwork. They pay based on average productivity. Okay, so that's important for you to know because it would be really hard to separate how we pay these guys because they're all part of the team. Okay, is that cool with you guys? All right, so we'll let you guys go. We won't do a fourth person. Thank you very much for your help. I'm getting everything the way it is. And we'll clean up later. All right, and okay. All right, so here's the and you think my house would be a mess? There's I'm like one of those people where I can't even like watch the TV in that area, so, you know, that will be cleaned up soon. So here's the why these are important. First of all, the marginal product of labor is based on what your wage rate is your marginal product of labor times the price of the good. That's the wage rate that a person should make. So when I talked to you guys last time about how to make sure that you make a lot of money in a company, then the way to do that is to produce a lot. All right. So let's just say, for instance, that my job is mowing lawns. So I mow 3 lawns a day. I charge $40 to mow a lawn. So what's my wage rate for doing that? $120. What if I'm slack and I don't mow as many lawns? I only mow 2 lawns per day. Then what happens to my wage rate? It goes down. What if I decide I'm going to be the best and the quickest and the hardest working lawn mowing person around, and I decide to do 4 a day? Then what happens to my wage rate? It goes up. So you see that my wages are connected to 2 things: my price of the good that I'm producing, and the marginal and the amount that I'm producing. And so I've done a lot of these studies for in economic studies. I've actually done this for I've done it for baseball a lot. So I try to look at how much a person adds to their team's success. And so what we do it by wins. So for instance, we would say the value of a win, all right, would be here. So a value and the number of wins would be here. Let's just take somebody, like a typical baseball player like Derek Jeter, okay, so everybody knows who he is, and just say in his good days, he would add 10 wins per year because he was playing the shortstop for the New York Yankees. So he was so good that because of him, they would get 10 extra wins a year. And you can kind of measure this stuff, right? And a win in New York is worth $1 million. So that means that this guy, Derek Jeter, should be paid $10 million a year. And that's how it works. Or you could say, let's look at Robert Downey Jr. and say that we're looking at the movie for the Avengers movie. And we say that how much is the price of a ticket for a movie? Let's just say it's $10 for a price of a movie. And because Robert Downey Jr. is in the movie, the Avengers, what is it, 2? Whatever coming out. Anyway, it's 2, I think it's 2. And then they're going to sell 20 million more tickets to that because of Robert Downey Jr. So he goes in and he says, that's cool. I want that time 20 million, maybe 2 million, sorry, 2 million, 2 million. So he goes in and says, that's great, I'm worth 2 million, which he actually gets paid more than that. He gets paid close to 70 for one of them, for one of his movies. And he gets 2 million times $10, so that comes out to be $20 million because of what he adds to the productivity process. Okay, so that's your job, you guys. Your job is to go into a place and to determine, what your value is to a company. So if it's a doctor, and a doctor would be paid, let's just use another example, say, all right, we have a doctor, and the doctor sees 50 patients a day, so that would be the marginal productivity, and they charge $100 per patient. Then this is how much the doctor would make per day. So we just take 5,000 per day. And then, of course, you have to take out all the expenses and stuff, but that's the revenue that they're coming in with, okay? So the point is, the more productive you are, the more patients you see, in say 60, then this goes up to 6,000. So every time you increase your marginal productivity, then you're going to be paid more. And that's how a lot of people are paid. But that's not how everybody's paid. Okay, there's another, but that's how a doctor would be paid. That's how a lawyer would be paid, by billable hours. That's how a business owner will be paid, by the number of items they sell. That's how, actors would be paid, and and athletes will be paid, but that's not how everybody's paid. But that's how used car people are paid. But a teacher is not paid by that, right? Teachers are paid based on what's called average productivity. So they just take the money coming in and basically divide it and pay it by what your market is. Okay, so if you're a teacher in a high school and you're going in your first year, you just knock it out of the park and you're the best teacher ever, then you're going to be paid the same as the person who was across the hall who got their contract the next year too. Right? So you started together, you both get your 3% raise if you're lucky, and you make your $35,000. It doesn't matter if you gave all A's or all F's, or it was the best teacher out there or the worst teacher, you're paid based on an average. Do you see where I'm going with that? So sometimes you're paid based on average productivity. You work in a convenience store, you work at a retail store, you work at a fast food restaurant. You know, you're gonna be paid based on the average. They're not gonna necessarily pay you based on how many people you serve.
But some intelligence, like, that's like based on how much you sell, right?
Now, some places will do that. They'll pay based on, you know, and you know those stores, right? Because when you walk into some stores and everybody surrounds you and says, you know, can we help you today, sir? Like a car salesman, they probably wouldn't say sir to most of you guys, but you know go to a car, a car dealership, and you walk through the door and it's like they come over. Well, you know they're paid based on commission. Right? But if you just walk into a store, like in the mall, and they're just like, hey, what's up? And you go, I'm good, and they don't bother you, they're probably not paid based on commission. They're probably paid based on average. And so we can tell because most of the time it's a little bit more aggressive when they pay based on commission. All right, so is everybody okay with this? All right. So let me kind of move forward here, and just go through some of these other terms. Okay, so we have this production function here called, and it's capital and labor. And I'm going to do this problem. Let's look at this problem that we have here. All right, so let's look at. Just going to erase it. So in the homework type thing, we have Q, K, L, and then there's TC, AC, MPL, and APL. And I'm going to put in here, well, there's another thing that we look at, it's called MPK. So the marginal MPK is the marginal product capital. And the marginal product capital is just the change in output when we change capital holding labor constant. So it would be like, what if we changed capital and we kept those same 3 workers up here, but we gave Tori an electric stapler. All right, that would be a change in capital. So they're not electric, or those automatic staplers, right, where you put the paper in and just staples. Or some high quality one, or it had like a bigger and more of an opening here, something that was better quality. Then that would change the capital. So we'd say, let's change the capital, keep those same 3 workers, and what do you think? What do you think would happen? Well, I know she would have stapled at least 3 or 4 more. So let's just say we did that, and we added that new stapler, so the capital would change, we kept the same labor units, and what would have happened here is we would have at least gone up by 3, in my example. So that's this information here, we would have a change in output and a change in capital with labor held constant. So what would be the marginal product capital in my example? How much does output change by?
3.
Right? And how much does capital change by?
1.
So what's 3 over 1? 3. So if we had another column here, it would be the marginal product of capital. We couldn't do it here, 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 or here because we're not changing capital. You have to change capital in order to do a marginal product of capital. So here we wouldn't be able to do a marginal product of labor or an average product of labor because we weren't changing, well, we could do an average, right? But we couldn't do a marginal product of labor because we're not changing labor, but we are changing capital. In that case, this goes up by 3, this goes up by 1, so our marginal product of capital would be 3.
Which is total cost change.
Yeah, it would. It would go, what would it be? It would be an extra $10 here because we're going up, right? So it'd be 20 for the capital and 15 so for the labor, so that would go up to 35. And that would cause our average cost to change as well. Okay, so this is the type of question that you're going to get on a test, okay? And just let me throw a couple of, well, I want to make sure I leave a 15 minutes here, so. If we just say, yes?
How are we supposed to find RW when we don't know how to do that?
That's what I'm doing right now. Okay, so let's do that. Let's use the one on here where we had capital was, well, we're 0 and 0 here. Right? Okay. 0 and 5. 5, and this would be 0. I'm looking at the one on my notes, the sample question number 1. And do you have the same? Do you have that type too? This one here. You guys have one similar to it. Yeah. All right. Well, this is really similar to the one that you guys got. So I'll give you 2 examples. And then this will be K, this is L, and then this was 16 and 30 and 41 and 48. I don't have to go that far. You just want to know how to do capital and labor. So these are 5 all the way down. This is 2, 3, 4. And what it does give you though, what should give you? Well, in this one here, it gives you, the one I'm looking at, they give you the total cost. So let me give you, let's just say it was this. And then this was, that's more like what you would get on a test. So what would be, yeah, but you can't tell them the rest based on this. What does this tell us about the cost of capital and the cost of labor? Well, you have to look at it like this, you guys. What are you buying? What are you buying for $100? Look across, what are you buying? Nothing. You're not buying anything?
The station.
You're not buying any labor. You're buying 5 units of capital for $100. So how much is a unit of capital going to cost? 20. Does everybody see that? You have to look at what you're spending your money on. So you're buying 5 units of capital. You're not buying any labor, so you don't have to worry about that, but you're spending $100. So you go back to this formula here, and you can do it that way and say, okay, I'm trying to solve for R. My capital is 5, and this is 0, because I'm not buying any labor, and my total cost is 100. So this would be 5R equals 100, so R equals 20. You can do it that way, or you can just look in your head and go, 5 divided by 20 is, or 100 divided by 5 is 20. So you can do it that way, that's easy. At the beginning, because we're not buying anything else at the beginning. So if you look at the one that you have, does it have, what one that you guys got for a sample question, what would be your cost of capital in a sample question? Does everybody have a sample question? The sample, the one I gave out last class? Do you have them? Okay, I have some extras up here for both things if you need them. Just pass this. People got their hands up. So I know a lot of you guys do have it. What are the numbers for the sample question that we do have? For capital and cost. Capital is 6, and the cost is how much in the first round? So 60. So how much would be your rental cost of capital? 10. All right, everybody, does everybody see that? So look on your sample questions, and you should have this number on your sample question will be 60, and this is 6. So if this is 60 for your total cost and you're buying 6 units of capital, that must mean that each unit of capital costs $10. Okay? Now, in this, are we okay with that? Okay, so let's move forward. And how much would it be the wage rate? Well, what happened next? You guys tell me what happened between here and here. We added 1 unit of labor, and what happened to our cost? Our cost went up by $12. So how much is a unit of labor? $12. So your wage rate is 12. How do I know that? Because I bought 1 unit of labor, and my cost went up by $12. Or you can go back to this formula again and say that I know that capital costs 20. I know that I bought 5 units of that. I'm solving for a wage rate and 1 unit of labor, and my costs are 12. Sorry, 112. So I just took all this information. The 112 is the total cost. The 20 I solved for before with the rental cost of capital. The 5 is here. The 1 is here. And so I just took this information, I moved it over to my formula, and it comes out to be W plus 100 equals 112. So W equals 12. Does that make sense? Yes?
Whenever you're finding the rental cost of capital, you just use the first one?
The first, that's all, because it'll never change. Right, so once you know that, and you move on to the next things. So every unit of capital now that you buy is going to cost 20, and in this case, every unit of labor that you buy is going to cost 12. Okay? So now if I said we're going to buy, 5 units of capital and 4 units of labor, then each of these is going to cost 20, so it's 5 times 20. And each of these is going to cost 12, so it's 4 times 12. So your total cost will be 148. Yes?
Okay. Why are you saying 20 again?
Because that's what I solved for up here. That's what I solved for up here. That the rental cost of capital is 20. Because
Because of 5 divided by 5.
it's 100 divided by 5. It's your fixed cost too, right? So your fixed cost is equal to 100 in this. Okay? All right, so what do you think? Can we handle this?
No.
Will we be able to handle it in a week, I guess is the better question. Okay, you can't handle it now, it doesn't bother me too much. It's not even on your quiz. But what bothers me, what's going to bother me is if you can't handle it in a week. So, yes.
On the sample question or whatever, the P stands for K, right?
What?
P
P stands for price. P is the price. Yeah. And P is knowledge of your price. Okay. Any other questions about these here before I move forward?
The definition of rental is TC over cash, hourly.
Are you talking about at the beginning?
Yeah.
See,
You said that's how we get
the reason that you can do TC over K is because you don't have any L. If you had L in there, then that wouldn't work. So you have to go to the line where there is no labor cost. So all you're buying here are 5 units of capital. That's it. And it's costing you $100. So you have to look at what's going on, right? You have to say, okay, what does this mean? What does this row mean? Well, in this row, I'm buying 2 units. I have 2 people working for me using 5 units of capital and 30 units. And so this is what I'm paying for, 5 units of capital and two workers. So you have to look at that and say, okay, now how much does the worker cost, how much does the capital cost? Yeah.
Can you go over the answers, or just go through the answers real quick for the cost practice question we got? Just to make sure we're on the right track.
The one that you, this was the one that you had for,
Yeah, that we gave out last week.
okay. I'll just do a couple of them here because I don't have the answer key with me, but the first one, the total rental cost of capital is going to be 10, and the wage rate is going to be 50. Okay, once you have those, you should be fine. Going down marginal productivity would be 20, 25, 23, and 14. Okay, so you can once you have those, you should be every unit of capital is going to cost 10, every unit of labor is going to cost 50. Okay, all right, and example. The other ones have the answers. The ones I showed you at the beginning of class. Any other questions? Yes.
How can you tell something is a firm or an industry? It's a couple of questions.
That's going to be more for the next part of the course. That's going to be more for perfect competition. So now don't worry about that right now. The only other thing that will add to this is when capital and labor both change. So that's the next thing that I'm not going to get to today. But we would have here, what would happen if we double capital and we double labor, so they both change at the same time, and that's called returns to scale. And so I'll start with returns to scale next time, and returns to scale will be on the test, but it's not that bad. But I would recommend that you look at returns to scale over the weekend, because it's pretty important to do that, right? It'll help you do that. It'll help you a lot. All right, so anything else? You want to think about the quizzes now? I think we're about that time. Okay, can you use your